Getting ready for another week of NFL football. It is Christmas week right now, and we are going to have kind of a crazy schedule for week 16. We'll have a game on Thursday. We'll have two games on Saturday. We'll have Sunday, kind of like a full slate, but then we'll have 3 Monday games for Christmas Day. So, we are having football games all over the place this week. Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Multiple games Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Let's just get them all out of the way right now. Erik, how's that sound? Let's just preview all the games right now since it's the holidays coming up and everyone's going to have different things going on. We probably won't be doing our normal NFL betting blitz shows in the morning, and we'll push the DRF sportsbook winning ticket back a week or so. Everyone's got a lot of holiday stuff going on, but right now we can get these games previewed early on. And man, 3 weeks left. Important times in the NFL, Erik, just kind of looking at the standings right now. You've got a lot of movement, a lot of teams still trying to get in, some good teams right now that aren't even in the playoffs if it were to start today. And then you got a week like last week that was massive for a team like the 49ers, where the teams around them in the NFC both lost. And now with the 49ers having a tiebreaker over like the Eagles and the Cowboys, they've almost got like a 2-game lead with just 3 left for that number 1 seed.
I mean, I think, the Lions had a good week too.
Very good week for them, right?
With the Vikings and the Packers losing.
And the teams around them losing too. So the Lions are right there, like another Cowboy or Eagle loss, and you're strongly the number 2.
So, it's definitely shaping up to be an interesting week. A little disappointed with the Jags. Obviously disappointed with the Eagles, what we saw on Monday night. And with the Cowboys too. Like,
not that they lost, right? Because it's like that was going to be there was a 2-point game, right? On like in the spread, and the Bills were favored slightly to win, but just off of the effort, you just I expected more from them, more resistance, just a better game of like 2 good teams going at it, but not that type of an effort where they couldn't stop the run at all. I think Josh Allen made a comment that said he wasn't used to it. He felt like the kid in a group project at school who didn't do anything and got an A on the project because they just kept handing the ball to Cook, and he wasn't used to that.
And I mean, here's something to think about. The Bills not really known for a heavy rushing attack. 49 attempts, 5.4 yards per carry. The Cowboys were very vocal this offseason, needing to stop the run. They drafted Smith from Michigan, but they allowed the 11th worst per yards per game, 117.4 on the ground. And you have the 49ers, Eagles, and Lions. All are top 6 per DVOA rushing attacks. And the reality is the Cowboys will probably have to beat 2 of those 3 teams in a row to make the Super Bowl. I just don't think they're going to do it because they may stop one team like they stopped the Lions, but they'll probably be too physically beat up in those trenches, stopping the run for the next game against the 49ers or Eagles.
Even a team even a team like the Rams right now, they're running the ball really well, right? Like they're leaning on the run. Like any of these teams that are running the ball well, Cowboys are going to have a tough time stopping because where their metrics are a little bit misleading, Erik. So EPA, expected points added per play, they're 13th in defensive rushing. So that looks like not bad, right? Overall, expected points added, they're like slightly above average. But the reason why they have a good EPA is because they've had some really kind of good turnover luck. When you look at their success rate, they're dead last. They are dead last in the NFL in success rate against the run, which means on the down to down, 45.3% of rushing plays are successful by any team in the league. They are dead last. It's one of those things where like they've been up in a lot of their games, especially at home. So it's one of those things where a lot of teams they've played haven't been able to stay true to the run because they've been down, but that's a massive weak spot for them. And it was an eye-opening week in a couple spots. We'll get to the specifics in all of our game previews now. Let's talk about the Thursday game, a big game with playoff implications here. These are two teams that are both right now at 7-7. The Rams right now, if the playoffs were to start today, they would be in. They would be your number 7 seed. The Saints, they would be out. They would be the number 9 seed, even though they're tied at 7-7 with Tampa. Tampa's got the tiebreaker over them for the division, so the Saints would be on the outside looking in. This is another one of those de facto playoff games for teams trying so hard to secure a spot. The Saints have quietly played pretty well the last few weeks. Their defense was impressive. They dominated the Giants' offensive line. They had 7 sacks on the day, held the Giants to 193 total yards and just 3.2 yards per play. The Giants only had 12 first downs in that game, and the Giants finished 2 of 16 on third down. It was the second week in a row where the Saints did not allow a touchdown defensively. It was just a 1-point game at halftime, but they scored on 3 straight possessions to start the second half. They've quietly averaged 26.7 points over their last 3 weeks. One of those games was a little fluky because there were a couple turnovers that they got, but it's still a better number as far as scoring for a team that had a big problem scoring for a lot of this year. They've at least been able to punch it in and get some points on the board. And then the Rams, man, they come off a game where they really dominated the game against Washington. They just couldn't score on a few of their drives. You look at the box score, the Rams had 445 total yards to 297 for Washington, 6.1 yards per play to 5.1 yards per play, 23 first downs for the Rams to just 14. 1 of 3 in the red zone for the Rams. So that's where they were a little sloppy, and they had 2 fumbles from Kyron Williams. Other than that, though, he was really good. He had 27 carries for 152 yards. They were up 20-0 in the game, and then 28-7 with 9 minutes left to go in the game. Then they missed a field goal, and Washington got 2 quick garbage time scores because this game wasn't even as close as the final score looked. Major positives, though. Williams, again, very good. Cooper Kupp, another 100-yard game for him. Puka, 5 catches for 50 yards. Stafford, under the radar, has been one of the best quarterbacks in the league like the last 6 weeks. People haven't really been talking about it, but Erik, man, when this guy's healthy, he's really good. He can throw. He has arm strength that not many others have. And when you put him with some weapons around him and a really good offensive coach, he can look super competent. I mean, this line, though, is not one I don't want to lay it with the Rams. It was like 4.5 a little bit earlier. I would probably be on the Saints side at anything about 3.5 or above. Talk to us about this game.
See, I kind of lean the Rams here. Dennis Allen is 25-40-2 since 2005. That is second worst coach against the spread, 38.5%. Favorites on Thursday Night Football, 55% against the spread. 4-point favorites or more are 58% against the spread. Saints are 24th DVOA versus the run, allowing 126.4 yards per game, 9th worst in the NFL. Historically, not the Saints defense up front that we're used to. So I really want to take Kyron Williams props here. His rushing prop is 88.5 yards, which is insanely high.
Massive number.
Yeah, you can't take that. As crazy as it sounds, I think more Saints money is going to come in a little bit just because the public's perception is starting to get out there. There's been 7 dogs I've won in a row on Monday Night Football. Maybe this dog price can get down a little bit better. But I'll probably be on the Rams here at some point just because I think they have a coaching matchup, a defensive matchup, better quarterback, better playmakers. I like the Rams here. If I had to make a bet, if this dips down a little bit more, I probably will.
Yeah, they're playing really well right now, Rammies. Let's move to Saturday. We've got
– and we all know what's going to happen, right? The Rams and Lions are going to play first round.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Detroit's going to be up 4. Stafford's going to get the ball back.
Game-winning drive.
81-yard drive.
In
with 12 seconds left. You know what I mean? That's
just as
we
a
all
story
know how the Ryan season is going to end.
Because I think one of my kind of big picture thoughts is I think the Rams can beat the 49ers in like they'll probably play the last week and it might be meaningless because the 49ers may have things wrapped up by that point. But I think because like the 49ers recently have beat up on the Rams, but they played really well earlier this year against each other. And I think it's one of those things where it's like your division rival that I feel like the Rams aren't going to be scared of them, where like a lot of other teams are going to be right off the bat going in there like already, kind of psyching yourself out. I hope, as a fan of the Rams with like nothing to lose, I hope the Rams get a shot against them in the playoffs, because I think they will play really well there. And I think they could kind of match up very well with them. So that's sort of my big picture. I think I had like a dream about it the other day that the Rams, that it ended up being like 2-7, which it doesn't look like it's going to be now, because it does look like the 49ers are going to get the 1 seed, which will probably give them a bye unless they lose 2 of the next 3. So let's get to Saturday. Bengals at the Steelers. Talk about another massively important game for these two teams trying to stay in playoff contention. Because right now, the Bengals are in. They're the number 6 seed. This team has won 3 in a row without Joe Burrow. We all just said they are done. No shot. But Browning has come in, and he's been super competent. And the coaching staff has put him in a really good spot to succeed. They had a slow start. They only had 3 points in the first half, did the Bengals. They only had 5 first downs through the first 30 minutes of the game. It was that Saturday game against the Vikings. They were down 17-3 with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the third quarter. Then they scored touchdowns on 3 straight possessions. They tie it up. They push it to overtime. And on their second possession in overtime, they kick a field goal. There was an incredible catch by T. Higgins. I'm calling it the catch and stretch. He caught, pivoted in the air, stuck his arm over. It's what they teach you not to do, Erik, because when you reach over the goal line like that, you could get a fumble called and it could be like a touchback. We see things like that happen all the time, but it was like in the point of the game where you have to make plays like that. So it was really cool to see, like, just an awesome move from Higgins. I think sometimes we forget how good he can be. And Browning, he was graded quarterback number 8 on the week. He's just been playing really good. You could see after the game in the press conference, he talked about how Minnesota cut him and he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And I was listening to some analysis and I thought it was fascinating, just kind of thinking about how, we all are human too. You and I think, try to do a really good job of talking about the numbers, statistics, box score, advanced stats, but then also sometimes bringing up like the narrative. And there's something that can be said for like a guy who feels so strongly about Minnesota cutting him, and like nobody else even really thought about that or cared about it, right? But he had this like in his heart. So there was like this little bit more oomph for him in that game that it wouldn't have been a big deal for anyone else. And then you got the Steelers, man. They feel like they're on the opposite end of the spectrum with the Bengals, because the Steelers were in great shape, but then Pickett got hurt. And I'm not saying it's because of Pickett's injury. They have just been bad recently against teams that were really beatable. They scored 13 points early. They got the benefit of a turnover, and the Colts missed a field goal. So all of a sudden, Pittsburgh's up 13 early. They didn't have to do anything. And then they didn't score the rest of the game. They got outscored 30-0. They didn't have a drive farther than 36 yards other than their opening drive. No other drive when they scored. So other than the drive, they scored a touchdown. Nothing else went longer than 36 yards. They only went beyond 20 yards 3 times on possessions. Like, that's a play for some good teams, like one 20-yard play. 3 turnovers in the game cost them negative 25% win probability against the Colts. What do you think about this game? I mean, it feels a little weird that Jake Browning is favored on the road against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I took Tomlin here. 64% ATS as a dog, home dog 74. After a loss of 7 or more, he's 79% ATS, 72% ATS as a dog against the AFC North. Bengals are 29th DVOA defending the run, are going to be without DJ Reader, who is their best run stopper. This will help the run game, allowing the Steelers offensive line to double Hendricks, plus putting less pressure on Mason Rudolph. And with these quarterbacks like Mason Rudolph, Case Keenum, Tyler Heineke, these veteran quarterbacks, what they're good for is they're good for 3 to 4 good drives that get you points a game. And with that Steelers defense, that's kind of all they need. They need 4 drives that will put points on the board. Bengals are 31st DVOA defending wide receiver 2. Great matchup for George Pickett's. 30 DVOA defending the tight end. Another great matchup for Pat Freiermuth. Plus, these teams just played a couple weeks ago. They limited Browning and the Bengals to 222 yards.
Yeah, that was his worst outing. Browning. He didn't look good that game.
Only 10 first downs. This Steelers defense is better than the 3 defenses that they've played. Plus, the Steelers closed as a 2.5-point favorite. This is a 4-point move, and the Steelers are at home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this, there's just number-wise, value-wise. It's on the Steelers here.
Another Tomlin spot where like we've all given up on the Steelers, right? This would be very Steelers for them to win their next 3 games. You know, after we all wrote them off for dead again, and then they come back and win a couple in a row to put themselves back in the playoffs. So Pittsburgh, I'm on that side is with you as well too. I sprinkle the money line here. You can get a little value on the plus money here if you're playing at DRF Sportsbook. Remember, if you're in the state of Iowa, use our promo code. It's scrolling across the bottom. That promo code FAST300 for up to a $300 deposit match bonus. We move to the second game on Saturday, the Bills at the Chargers. So the Bills now, a team that Erik told you a few weeks ago, play this team to make the playoffs, maybe a little Josh Allen MVP sprinkle. This team has some good value a few weeks ago, and all of a sudden they flipped it, and they played really, really well. That it was remarkable to see them play so, like, run the ball so well and keep doing it. Because how many times, Erik, are you and I sitting here talking about games after they happen, and we're going, why did that coach stop running the ball? They were picking up 5 or 6 yards every time. Why did they stop? This was one of those games where they really did just hand the ball off almost every time and say, Dallas, you can't stop us.
It was great. You know, just here it is. Go to work. Boom.
But now, right now moving forward in this game, they're a 12-point favorite on the road coming off of a stretch of games that they got up for, right? They had a tough stretch of games where they were up for the Chiefs, up for the Eagles, up for the Cowboys. Big, big games. Now you got a game against a team who fired their coach, who just allowed 60 points last week. This feels like a real deflating down spot for the Bills, and nobody in the world is going to want to play the Chargers in Easton Stick after they allowed 42 points in the first half to the Raiders on national TV last week. But as a gambler, isn't this one of those spots where you have to either be fading Buffalo and playing the Chargers or staying away from this game?
Yeah, I actually got this at openers at plus 14. I'd still play at the number plus 12. Buying
10.5 for me, I'm fine.
Teams that lost by 17 or more, playing a team that won by 17 points or more, 61% against the number. Teams that lost by 35% or more, 63% against the number. Teams that lost by 35% or more, 35 points or more, that are dogs, it ticks up to 68%. 35%, 35 points or more, and are getting 10 or more, they're 83% ATS. You know, it's just the thing. Bills are starting to become the trendy team, make a run in the playoffs.
They're a little too buzzy right now. And people might be right. They might be.
A ton of defensive injuries.
They didn't go away. Those defensive injuries didn't go away. They just were able to control the game last week, right? So they ran the ball, they ran the clock, they dominated possession. And then they put Dallas in a bad spot because Dallas was down, so they had to throw the ball. And then once you become one-dimensional, you can really make things easier on yourself as a defense, right? They didn't have to play Dallas in a game where Dallas was kind of able to run, pass. And I agree with you. I watched that game too. Dak was really, really bad. Dak was graded quarterback 38 on the week out of 39 quarterbacks that took snaps. So some of the guys that came in like mop-up duty were way better than Dak. He just was awful. So this is the fade the Bills spot and play the Chargers spot where nobody wants to play the Chargers.
Yeah, also road favorites laying 10 or more. since 2005, 42% against the number. Last 3 years, 38% against the number.
We go next to Sunday, Eric. Let's jump from the Bills Chargers to the Browns and the Texans. It seems like every one of these games that we're discussing, like major playoff implications. Again, you've got two teams right now. The Browns are the number 5 seed in the AFC right now. They're 9-5. The Texans are the number 8 seed, but they're only one game behind at 8-6. You have the Bengals, the Colts, the Texans, and the Bills all at 8-6 right now. And as we were just talking about the Bills, they can't take their foot off the gas. They're not even in the playoffs right now. They're on the outside looking in. They got to keep winning to get in and hope for a little luck and hope some of the teams in front of them, lose. But the Bills actually can control their own destiny, like with a couple victories and like with one Miami loss, they could even win the division. So a lot can happen, but I will give a lot of credit to Joe Flacco, Eric. He's been really good, but he's been like Joe Flacco, kind of what you expect from him. He was almost the reason why the Browns lost the game last week. And then he comes back and has this incredible fourth quarter. He threw for 374 yards. He had 3 interceptions, though, that led to 14 Bears points. The Browns could not run the ball at all, and that's a real thing for the Bears. The Bears have maybe the best run defense in the league. They just shut you down. Like, you cannot run against them. So Flacco throws for 212 yards in the fourth quarter. That's the most by any player in the fourth quarter this year. He became the first Browns quarterback to throw for at least 300 yards in back-to-back wins since 1980. That is insane. He's now the 4th different quarterback this year to lead them on a game-winning drive. And I'm just becoming more and more like a Stefanski for Coach of the Year this year because he's done an amazing job, I think, with this team. With that, 4 different quarterbacks have taken this team on a game-winning drive this year. That's an incredible statistic. And, the Browns leaned on, Cooper, 109 yards receiving. Njoku and Flacco have a good chemistry. He had 10 receptions for 104 yards. Here's something to monitor, though, because the Browns are on the road here, and they are a 2.5-point favorite on the road, even with Flacco starting, because he's looked good, but it's crazy to say, like, Flacco for the Browns are a 2.5-point favorite on the road. They've allowed 13.1 points per game at home and 197 yards per game. So not even 200 total yards offenses are picking up against the Browns at home. But on the road, the Browns are allowing 30.7 points per game and 345 yards per game. And right now, this Browns team, Eric, like at one point last week, they were playing with their 3rd right tackle, their backup left tackle, their 3rd center, and their backup guard. They had one starter on the offensive line make it through the entire game, and that was their right guard. It just feels like a Texan spot to me. Talk to me about how you see this game.
For me, I guess the big thing is I need to know what's going on with Stroud. We're recording this Wednesday evening. At the time of recording, Stroud is still in a concussion protocol. Do you really trust Case Keenum?
And this is a Stroud not playing number.
Yeah, going up against this. We also don't know what's going on with Nico Collins. I mean, I'm sitting on Stefanski 25-1 to win Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
And what he's doing, this team has 10 wins. They have everybody just
offensive line banged up, running back, quarterback one. They've had injuries to the wide receivers. They multiple running backs banged up. It's really impressive. It is. And now people are really excited and kind of rooting for Flacco. It's fun to see him out there with this team. It would be really funny to see a Flacco versus the Ravens in the playoffs game. That would just kind of be a blast here. Yeah, I'm not laying it with the Browns, but I agree with you. We probably want to monitor this game a little bit more, find out exactly who's going to
go. Collins is so big to this offense. I mean, him not being there is a huge
on top of the Dell injury too, right? Because it's already compounded. It's not even just Nico. It's him not out there on top of another 1 or 2 playmakers being out. that really hurts. But yeah, I mean, shout out to them again. They were down by 13 nothing. Then they kick a field goal at the end of the half. They're down by 10. Their win probability was as low as 8% with 8 minutes left to go in the second quarter. But they held Derrick Henry to 9 yards rushing on 16 carries. And the defense held the Titans to only 204 total yards and 3.2 yards per play. They forced punts on Tennessee's final 4 possessions of that game. So I lean Texans here, but want to monitor this a little bit more. Check out the quarterback situation. Lions, man, that had to make you feel good, right? Watching that last week, because for a 5-6 week stretch, we just did not see very good Lions play. Like some good weeks here and there on offense, but overall, defensively, they struggled. That's what I like to see from them last week. The defense allowed only 62 rushing yards. They put pressure on Wilson on 51% of their dropbacks, which was actually the 5th time this year that your Lions have pressured the quarterback more than 50% of the time. And that's the most in the league. This game reminded me of a 49ers game in that you look at the Lions and all of their really good weapons had solid games. Like all of their playmakers played well. And when this team plays this well, they can beat any team in the league, including the 49ers. Like the offensive line that we had been worried about, Erik, they were back to giving the quarterback tons of time. 72% of the dropbacks, Goff had no pressure. And you know what that meant? Goff's going to look really good. He was graded quarterback number 5 on the week. He had 5 touchdowns, and there were 5 touchdowns in this game from rookies. That's the most touchdowns from rookies in a single game since 1979. You had Goff, who played well. You had St. Brown, who had 112 yards receiving, 7 receptions. You had Laporta, 5 receptions, 56 yards, 3 touchdowns. You were all over him. Jameson Williams had 4 catches and made some really nice plays. So you got wide receiver 1, looks good. Wide receiver 2, looks good. Tight end, looks good. Running back 1, Montgomery, 17 carries, 85 yards. Gibbs, I guess he could be RB1. It's sort of like a co-backfield there. But Gibbs was even better, 11 carries for 100 yards. I loved seeing all of those guys. Like that's like when you watch the 49ers and you see Kittle and Debo and McCaffrey and Ayuk all have great games. Like they got all the playmakers involved. They all played well. The defense looked like they had a chip on their shoulder. And you know what? You beat a Broncos team that had come into the game playing really well and had been competing with some of the better teams in the league. So like all that being said, positive for the Lions, but should they be favored here in this spot by more than a field goal now on the road?
I mean, it's tough to trust them with that defense. They're really missing McNeil. I know they had a good game against the Broncos, but that was more of a scheduled loss for the Broncos. The thing that really sticks out to me is this. When the Lions have their whole starting offensive line, 5-0, there's only been 5 games, averaging 38.4 points a game and 179.4 rushing yards per game. That is absolutely absurd. Do the Vikings have the Hogs up front to stop that? I don't know. Flip side, looking at these back 4 of the Lions, who's gonna stop Justin Jefferson?
And they got Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson just last week. Those 3 combined for 258 receiving yards.
I mean, Addison plays a lot in the slot. That's where Branch is back from injury. So that is actually one of the strengths of the defense because Branch plays there. It's the outside that kind of bleeds production. They're talking about maybe CJ Gardner-Johnson being able to come back. I don't think you should rush him back because you do need him for the playoffs. They do definitely need McNeil to be able to get to Nick Mullins, but do you trust Nick Mullins in the spot? I really don't. I'm going to see what Jefferson's receiving yard prop looks at, go there, but anything else, this is probably just going to be a pass for me. The spot kind of says to take the Vikings, but this is their third string quarterback. And with the game on the line in overtime, Kevin O'Connell did the tush push with 5'8", 181-pound Brandon Powell pushing Nick Mullins twice in a row. I mean, that has to be some of the worst play calling I've ever seen. This is just a pure stay away from me.
Yeah, me too. It was up and down for Mullins. He was graded quarterback 17 on the week. The team moved the ball better overall. They had 424 total yards, but they'd only scored a combined 15 points over their last two games. But Mullins had 2 interceptions when they were in scoring position and some bad decisions that ended up costing them. I'm with you. Like, feels like you'd want to take the Vikings here, but I think the Lions might have figured a few things out last week, and I just think overall they're a better squad than Minnesota. Stay away from me on the number. We go to Green Bay at Carolina. Green Bay had their first home loss in the month of December since 2018. They were down by 3 at halftime, but they just couldn't stop Tampa in the second half. They allowed Tampa Bay to score touchdowns on their first 3 possessions of the second half and then run the clock out with a 4-minute offense on their 4th drive. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this later. One of the greatest performances by a quarterback in the history of Lambeau Field was not by Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre. It was by Baker freaking Mayfield. Baker cooking it up, one of Erik's new favorite players, and you talked about a few weeks ago how you like this Tampa team. Baker, I believe, had like the best passer rating ever for a visiting quarterback coming into Lambeau Field, which is just unbelievable to think about. So Green Bay a few weeks ago, they were the hot buzzy team, and that it flipped so quickly for them to where a stretch of games where you felt like they really had opportunities to win, they looked bad. And now they're favored on the road against the Panthers team. I mean, that game last week with the Falcons and the Panthers was so ugly. The Panthers did not look good. Young was under pressure. Only 28% of his dropbacks, though. That was a season low. He only was under pressure 8 overall times. They tried to run the ball with Hubbard. He had 87 yards, 22 carries. But the Panthers are down 7-6, and the Falcons have the ball. Falcons are in scoring range. They're about to kick a field goal to go up 10-6, like 7 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. But Ritter throws an awful interception. It's like a terrible decision. And instead of getting the 3 points, it's still 7-6. The Panthers go on a 7-minute and 35-second drive to ice the game and kick a game-winning field goal. That was actually impressive. Like, you look at the score and everything, but to get the ball with 7 minutes and 30 seconds left and not give it back and just kick a game-winning field goal, that's perfect clock management. Like, you could not ask for anything better. It's hard to be impressed with the overall body of work. But, I mean, in this spot at home, this to me is you play the Panthers or you stay away.
Oh, I'm in it. I took the Panthers here plus the 5. Panthers are allowing 8 less points per game at home, 20 at home versus 28 away. Flip side, Packers defense 26 DVOA against the run. Panthers offense right now, it just funnels through Chuba Hubbard. This is just going to be a turnaround handoff left, turnaround handoff right, try to get in front of the sticks, hit a little 5-yard crossing route to Mingo or Adam Thielen. Love 33% against the number. And I like this Panthers defense with Burns and Brown, CJ Henderson, excuse me. JC Horn is back healthy. It's a little bit under the radar. I think they're fighting for their new coach. I'll take them here, anything over field goal. Plus, I'm just not buying this Panthers team. The Packers team. I just haven't seen anything from them where they should be laying this. Love, all the throws are off his back foot. His throws sail a lot against a team that is ball hawking, that gets to the quarterback and plays a lot of man. That can lead to some trouble. So I'm gonna take the Panthers here plus the points.
They're still young, you know. I think we all like, and I was I was actually a victim of this too, in that it's hard in the NFL with the small sample sizes, because I never want to jump on someone after one good week. But when you get a stretch of like 3 or 4 really good weeks in a row with young players, especially with quarterbacks, you wonder, was that just a good stretch, or have they taken the next step, right? Are they taking that step forward? And for Love, we all started saying, wow, he's taking that next step. And it just might have been a good stretch. Like, because he's come back to life a little bit. He's come back, he's regressed a little bit to the mean after that really good stretch of 4 games. I'm not saying he's bad or he can't be an NFL quarterback. We just want to get ahead of ourselves, especially in the media. Like, you see someone playing well and it's hard not to. He played a couple really good games against good opponents. He beat the Lions that we all saw. He played well. He beat the Chiefs that we all saw. But the last few weeks, it were like, you can just see defenses are playing him a little bit differently. They're making life harder now on him, a point that you always make. Now there's more film out there. There's more looks at what the things he does right and wrong. What are some of his tendencies, his idiosyncrasies? And even on bad teams like Panthers, there's smart coaching and smart coaches on those rosters that look at the film and they can see things that he's doing and make life harder for him. I'm on the Panther side with you here too. At 3.5 or over, that would be my
That's what it feels this line should be. This line should be 3 or 3.5.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah.
Let's get to where are we going next? Colts at the Falcons. Man, another instance where when you look at the Eagles this year and you wonder maybe why they have a good record, but as you watch them, they haven't felt like the same team from last year. They didn't have the offense. They had a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator, and their offensive coordinator from last year is fantastic. He's been doing a really good job with the Colts here. You've got the Falcons, who are desperate now, and all the rumors out there about Arthur Smith. Should he get fired? I mean, let's look at last week. The Falcons, in a game where they lose to the Panthers, here are like some of the touches in their game. They have first-round pick Bijan Robinson. He had 7 carries, 1 reception. He did fumble the ball on the 20 with 1:30 left to go in the third, and that enabled Carolina to kick a field goal. So he made a mistake. I will say. Pitts, first-round pick, 3 receptions, 37 yards. London, first-round pick, 2 receptions, 24 yards. So you have 3 first-round picks that had a combined 13 total touches for those 3. Tyler Algier had 15 touches for 51 yards. It's like, what are you doing as a head coach here? Like, what are you doing? You have 3 first-round draft picks. Maybe 1 or 2 of them shouldn't have been, or maybe they're a little overrated, or maybe they aren't as good as we thought. But I don't look at any of those 3 guys and think they're a bust. They have no talent. I look at the scheme they're in and how they're used, and I think, God, these guys are not used very well. And I mean, Ritter's now been benched again. They said it probably looks like it's going to be Heineke finishing the season. He threw that horrible across the body interception that cost him the game. Ritter did. It is really funny though, because Erik, when you look at this team, they are 6-8 right now, and no joke, they should have 2 losses this year. 2. They lost 6 games by 1 score, and it's not like when you look at the game and you're like, that game was close. They could have won that game. Those are 6 games they should have won. Like, not could have. They were the better team, better in the box score. They had the better players. Their defense was better, but they made mistakes. And instead, like, they could be battling for the number 1 seed and like the best overall record in the league, not even being much better than they are right now. Like, not even being much different of a team. And that's why you and I like this team coming into the year, because of their schedule. And now you're in a situation where, you lose one more time, you're done. And do you give Heineke a shot here with the season on the line at home against the Colts?
No,
I can't do it either.
Not at all. This is a must win. The main thing people are going to point out is Cleveland's stats. 23rd DVOA against the run, but they do have Grover Stewart back. When you look at the splits when he was there versus him not there, they really are good defending the run. Falcons defense is a little bit banged up. Colts, huge coaching advantage. Lack of Robinson touches is really concerning, especially when you kind of look at the weather. It was cold, rainy, windy. I understand London not really getting the ball. I understand Kyle Pitts not getting the ball.
Completely agree with you.
For Bijan Robinson to have 7 carries, Tyler Algier to have 14, doesn't make sense to me. That should have been Algier 12 carries, Bijan Robinson 20+ touches, Cordell Patterson, sit your ass on the bench. That's what that game should have been. Arthur Smith, dead man walking. And it's going to be interesting. I really think this offseason is going to be one of the better off seasons in NFL history with the intriguing coaching options that are going to be out there, Falcons, and who fills them, along with the free agents. When we just kind of take a look at the free agents, Mike Evans, Michael Pittman isn't under contract. He's going to be a free agent. Calvin Ridley, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler. There's going to be some interesting players could be switching teams with some new coaches. Looking forward to Atlanta next year, but unfortunately our futures are going to go off to the pasture.
Yep. And Steichen, man, he's done a great job with this Colts team. They were down 13-0 against the Steelers. They missed a field goal. They had a punt blocked. And all of a sudden you're down 13-0. And then Moss gets hurt. Pittman gets hurt. They don't panic. They score 30 unanswered points in a game where they were already playing with a backup quarterback and a backup running back, and then that running back got hurt. So they just have guys keep going down, and they kept stepping up. I wanted to give some credit to their offensive line. They helped the team push for 157 rushing yards on 28 carries, and that was without their top 2 running backs for most of it. And Minshew played really well in this game. He had a season-high passer rating, and he was graded quarterback number 10 on the week. No turnover-worthy plays. It actually seemed like a game where they needed Minshew, right? He needed to be good in that game for them, and he was, which was awesome. Like, he's not great every week. There have been a lot of these games this year that they've won despite Minshew making some bad throws or decisions, but this is kind of like the mark of a winning team. Like, you sort of need guys to step up in different spots here and there, and they do. And this was the moment when it was like, hey, some of our best playmakers aren't around. Minshew, you got to be good. You can't make mistakes. And he did. And now they're in a really nice spot. They're currently the number 7 seed. The playoffs were to start today. They are in. Don't look now. They're tied with the Jags for the division lead. It's a 3-way tie with the Texans, the Jags, and the Colts all sitting at 8-6 here. So I'm not on them in this game, but I wanted to give them a little bit of love because I think they've been very well coached this year so far, just to be in this position, a team that we all early in the year, Richardson's out, Taylor's gone, no idea what this new coaching staff's going to look like. They're not going to be good. They're 8-6 right now, and they're 1 win away from having a winning record this year. Seahawks at the Titans. As a fan of Drew Lock's a few years ago, you were someone who liked him a little bit. He's the type of guy, if you were to draw or create a character on a video game of a quarterback, Drew Lock has like all the skills that you want. Big, incredibly strong arm, mobile for a big guy. You just never know with decision-making and processing. That's like an intangible that's really hard to define until you see guys get in the NFL. I thought Drew Lock gave one of the greatest interviews post-game that I've ever heard after his game-winning drive last week. It was so refreshing to hear someone talk about like the humanity of being an athlete. You know, we look at numbers and stats all the time, and I was just kind of pointing out there's a narrative thing. Nobody could pinpoint how much that game meant to Jake Browning against the Vikings, you know? And a guy like Locke, who up until he was 22 years old, he was the man everywhere he went. He was a stud. Like, he won. He was a big man on campus. And then you get into the NFL, and he wasn't sure if he was ever going to be able to succeed, to do it. Who knows if he'll ever be a starting quarterback? But he didn't even know if he could go compete against the best and go on a game-winning drive like he did last week. I just thought that was awesome. 92 yards and takes a 3-point lead with 1:52 left to go in the game. They leaned on Walker, who had a nice game, but keep an eye on him. He did not practice today, so that would hurt a little bit. Then you have a Titans team where Derrick Henry's thinking about retirement because Erik, he had 9 rushing yards on 16 carries. He had 20 touches in the game and 10 total yards, which is the first player in NFL history to get the ball at least 20 times and not hit 15 yards. That's never happened before. This Titans team only scored 3 points in the second half, and they've got some quarterback concerns now. Does it look like we're going to be maybe back to Tannehill here?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to. It looks like Levis is out from everything I'm reading. Obviously, Vrabel's keeping everything close to his chest. It was announced, though, that Geno is going to be back. I think this number is going to move up to the 3. And right there, that's going to be my buy-in point. Vrabel, dog, 57% against the number. Home dog, 60% against the number. You know, fading the Seahawks after that big Monday Night Football win is something you have to do.
Emotional win. Feels like it keeps them alive. I completely agree.
Titans defensive line should be able to get home against this offensive line. And the thing that sticks out to me is the Seahawks give up 127.3 yards rushing per game. I know you just mentioned that Derrick Henry struggled, which is an understatement when you mention those numbers, but I do believe it's still good. A good bounce back spot for Spears, get him going a little bit as well. I think that the Titans are live here. I'm going to play them plus I'm going to wait till it gets to 3 and then I'm going to get in.
Yep. I think I'm going to be with you on that too. I'm going to wait for 3. We'll wait for our better number there as we move to the Commanders at the Jets. What a good football game here, huh? 2 teams that are just not playing for anything. Washington is a 3-point dog. So the Jets are a 3-point favorite here as Wilson got hurt last week. Concussion, didn't play the second half. He got sacked 5 times. This is the 13th straight year the Jets did not make the playoffs. The longest drought in any of the 4 major North American sports. The Jets had -6 yards on their first 4 drives last week. They had 4 yards in the first half. That's the fewest yards any team has had in a half in the first half of a game since December of 2015. They had 4 turnovers. They looked ugly. Then you had the Commanders who played the Rams. The game was not even as close as the score might have looked. A couple positives, though, to take from them. Terry McLaurin, 141 yards, 6 receptions. And Brissett, he's definitely one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league. He comes in and he leads 2 garbage time touchdown drives. So I don't know. I mean, do you have excitement to play either one of these teams right now? One or the other?
For me, and it sucks to say this.
You're on the commies?
No.
Jetties, huh?
I think the Jets is the way to go here, but I think that it's going to move a little bit because I don't think Zach Wilson is going to play. When you hear his mom talk on the Instagram live she posted, he doesn't sound too hot. Obviously, you have the teams coming off scoring 0 points. They're close to 69% ATS against the number. And I really feel the book's out on Howell. I really feel teams know how to play Howell. This Jets defense is better than the Rams defense in terms of what they're able to do skill-wise. Also, you need to be able to run against the Jets. I don't think the Commanders are going to be able to run it. Chris Rodriguez, it looks like he's going to be the nod because Brian Robinson is hurt. Commanders have the worst secondary in the NFL. I've been picking on them in DFS. I laddered your boy Cooper Kupp, made some great money last week playing him. My only hesitation is, are the Jets just going to wheel it in just because the season's over for them?
Yeah.
That's my one worry here.
Me too. Because these 2 teams might both be giving up, kind of. You know, they both don't have a whole lot to play for right now.
But according to everyone, Robert Saleh is one of the best coaches in the league, and which is garbage in my eyes. I don't know. If this gets to 2.5, I'll probably take it. But right now, I'm just gonna kind of
sit and wait.
Yeah.
Let's get to Jags at the Bucks. Man, Baker Mayfield graded quarterback number 2 on the week last week, and only Brissett was better than him, and Brissett only played 2 garbage time drives. So Baker was the best quarterback of the week last week of any game, and he was 22 for 28, 381 yards, 4 touchdowns. He lost a fumble on his own 5 late in the first quarter, and the Packers scored a touchdown. Other than that, he was fantastic. Became the first visiting quarterback ever with a perfect passer rating at Lambeau Field. And he led Tampa to 457 total yards, which was their most since week 17 of last year. One key for them, the balance between the run and the pass was almost identical. And for a team that's really struggled to run the ball, if they can just be somewhat competent running, they don't even have to be average running the ball. They just have to be not dead last or so bad that it makes them really easy to defend. And Tampa's got a little buzz to them right now. Like, they're playing pretty well. For the Jags, we don't really know the quarterback situation. Lawrence, man, like, if you played Jacksonville last week, that was one of the more frustrating games to
my God. I was livid.
Dude, they moved the ball. They missed a field goal, fumbled. And then at the end of the half, it's 1st and goal at the 5. They've got 11 seconds left, no timeouts. They're down by 10. So you need at least a field goal anyways. Like, you're going to try to kick a field goal. So you get up. Here's one of 2 things you do. You either A, snap the ball. If you want to run a play, the only thing you can do is throw it into the end zone. Touchdown or incompletion. That's it. Or you spike the ball. You waste 1 down, but then you give yourself 11 seconds or 10 seconds, and you've got at least 1, probably 2 shots at the end zone. And then you can kick a field goal. Instead, Lawrence made one of the worst decisions around. He threw like a screen to the outside. His receiver couldn't get out of bounds, and then the clock runs out. I mean, you knew after that play, if you backed the Jags, you were in trouble. But that was a really deceiving game because they drove in the first half inside of Baltimore's 40-yard line 4 times and had 0 points for that. So, I mean, that was frustrating. But talk to us about this game, how you see it setting up the Jags on the road here. Do you think this is no Lawrence?
We don't know. We really
because concussion, right? So
this line has been moving all over the place. Jags 7th DVOA against the run. How is this going to affect the new Bucs offense, which is kind of filtering through Rashard White with their new running scheme? They run a pass funnel system, obviously lines up for a good Chris Godwin type game. I kind of want to fade Baker after that game he had, but I want to be getting points with the Jaguars.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You look at the Jags, 2 trips deep inside, like you said. All those missed field goals in the first half. It was frustrating because I had the Jags there. Lawrence got banged up. But I'll be honest, when you just kind of look at these teams, which one of these teams do you trust the most? I really don't trust either one of these teams. For me, this is just going to be a pass. I'm just going to kind of stay away and just kind of assess the situation. But Jags are definitely one of these teams I'm looking to fade in the playoffs.
We go next to this is an important game because these 2 teams are going to have a big say in what happens in the NFL draft coming up this year. You've got the Cardinals and the Bears. They're both going to be drafting at the top. And both of them are going to have to make big decisions on what they want to do with their quarterbacks moving forward. Do they want to keep Kyler Murray in Arizona and build around him? Do you want to keep Justin Fields? Or you want to start over? And they'll have the opportunity to make a decision on what they want to do. But in this game, the Bears are a 4-point favorite. They are at home. And both of these teams come off of games where they played pretty well. Like, Arizona got beat by the 49ers. They just couldn't stop them. But Arizona actually really played hard for a lot of that game. They ran for 234 yards as a team. Connor rushed for 86 yards. DeMarcado rushed for 64. And Kyler had 49 yards rushing. A good game for McBride, who had 10 catches and over 100 yards. And the Bears, they shut down the Browns' run game. They only allowed the 29 yards rushing for the Browns, and they created 3 interceptions. They were up by 10 in the fourth quarter. You know, the Bears 3 times this year have had double-digit leads in the fourth quarter and lost a game. I mean, think about that. You take those 3 games and flip them, and you give them 3 wins instead of 3 losses. Like, this is a playoff team. And instead, you don't really know what to feel about them. So they're up by 10 in the fourth quarter. They've got a 4th and 1 from the Browns 33, and they get stopped. And after that, they had 3 more possessions when they were up 7, tied, and down 3, and still had chances to win. Punt, interception. They didn't really move the ball very well overall, though. I mean, they were only 1 of 12 on third down. They only had 236 total yards. They were only 4 of they were 4 of 18 on third down, 0 of 12 on fourth down. 3.4 yards per play, and Fields was only 19 of 40 passing the ball with 2 interceptions. As a team, they only rushed for 88 yards. So they gained points off turnovers, established a big lead. They actually had to punt the ball 10 times. And even after all that, there was a crazy Hail Mary that they should have caught that was in Mooney's hands as he was leaning down there.
Can you believe if you're the guy that had the Browns in Circa Survivor? Like, Jesus,
you're alive.
You want to talk about a roller coaster.
I know, huh? Up and down. Talk to us about this when Erik Bears hosting the Cardinals.
I took the Cards here plus the 4.5. Eberflus, 37% ATS as a favorite. He has never covered a game in his coaching career as a favorite. Fields as a favorite in general is only 33% against the number. At home in general is only 31% against the number. Murray as a dog, 64. As a road dog, 79% ATS. Bears struggled defending the pass. They made Joe Flacco look solid, who threw for 374. And Murray can spin it better than Flacco. Plus, the pass rush of the Bears gets home. Murray has the legs to extend the play. I have a rule that when 2 bad teams play against each other, I always take the team that's the dog. And this trend backs it up. Since 2005, teams with a 40% winning percentage that are playing another team with a 40% winning percentage or less, the team that the dog is 55% against the number since 2005. Last 5 years, 58% against the number. Who are the Bears to be laying points? Look, I know they're a hype team. I know a lot of people are questioning and giving their 2 cents, which they should do going into next year. But what has this team showed us all year? They have no clue how to win. The game against the Lions a couple weeks ago, the game against the Browns last week you're just talking about. This team doesn't know how to win and shouldn't be laying points. This Cardinals team, Kyler Murray has gotten a team to the playoffs. He does have that experience. He's playing for his next contract. He's probably going to be the most motivated player on the field, as crazy as it sounds. Eberflus, 8-23 straight up in his career. Fields, 8-27 straight up, and I'm supposed to trust them to win with margin with 4 points. I took the 4.5 here. Had it found in a different book. Still like the 4 here. Anything over 3.5 to buy on the Cardinals.
Where do we head next? We've got a big game in Miami on Sunday. We've got the Cowboys heading to play Miami. The Dolphins are a slight favorite, like a 1.5 point favorite on the road here. I saw today a post. It made me laugh. I'm not laughing because of somebody being hurt or anything like that, but it said that on the not practicing today was the entire Miami offensive line. Like they're that banged up. And that's a little bit scary going against just the matchup here for Miami having to deal with the Dallas team. These 2 teams remind me a lot of each other because both of these 2 teams haven't really done a great job against good teams this year. But the Dolphins this year or today not spotted at practice the entire starting offensive line. Tyreek Hill, Xavier Howard, Raheem Mostert, and A-Chain. Holland and Elliott were in the final stages of concussion protocol, so they were practicing. But this team is super banged up. And now you're going to have a Cowboys team that got embarrassed last week coming to play them. I do like Dallas a little bit in this spot. Like, I think Dallas overall is the better, more well-balanced team than Miami. Miami was good, though, last week without Hill. Tua completed his first 13 passes of the game. They got up early. They didn't have much to do, but they only had 290 total yards. They gained 4 turnovers. People might have looked at that game and thought, oh, Miami offense was back. They had 5.1 yards per play. They punted on their first drive. Then the Jets fumbled. So the Dolphins got a 1-yard touchdown right off the bat. And then the Jets turn it over on downs on their own 42. So Miami only has to go 22 yards and kicks a field goal. Think about some of Miami's recent scores. The 2 touchdowns they got against the Titans late in that game, they did nothing for those. They didn't move the ball at all. Then their 2 scores to open this game where they got up by 10, they got a 1-yard touchdown and they went 20 yards to kick a field goal. They moved 21 yards to get 10 points right off the bat. I think they're like a little bit overvalued still right now because people are looking at them thinking, oh, they bounced back last week and the Cowboys got beat up. I'm on Dallas here.
I'm just going to stay away. I don't know if Dallas is anyone that can play Hill. But you do have the teams win by 30. You fade them. The next thing, angle. Dolphins actually are running the ball more this year. They average 26 yards per carry, but they're more of a speed rushing attack, not a what's the word I'm looking for? Not a power attack rushing. I don't know what to do here because I don't trust either team. I don't trust either quarterback.
Yeah, I think both of these teams are overvalued. I'm with you on that.
I think McDaniel's a better coach.
I don't know if you saw the clip floating around. I'm like warming up to him a lot more and more and more too. Just what he's been able to do for Tua. In the game last week, they had the cameras on him like during the game, and he's kind of corny. He kind of reminds me of like how I would be as a coach. He's like just goofy and like energetic and slap. He's like saying just cornball stuff. But he went up to one of the guys and said, we're going to have a 1-yard or we're going to have a 1-play drive right now. Watch this. He said, we're going to run this play to Waddle. It's going to be a 1-play drive. And they ran the play and they scored. It was just cool. Like a cool moment when you see the guy like, and he like elbowed Hill. He said, hey, watch this. This is going to be one of those 1-play drives to Waddle right now. And it was a cool moment. I got a kick out of that. And I think he's doing a really good job there with them. But I will lean Dallas here. Stay away for Erik. We continue along. Where do we head next, Erik? Let's go 4 games left. Broncos hosting the Patriots. Broncos just got their asses kicked against your Lions. They actually had a chance early in the game to go up. They fumbled the ball in the red zone. And then following that, they have punt on their next 4 possessions. And in a game where they could have been up by 3, they could have been up early. They're down 21-0 at half. It was quick for them. Patriots, on the flip side, they looked equally as inept offensively. Patriots had 10 first downs in the game against the Chiefs, 206 total yards. They got a rookie kicker. So, like, if you're the Patriots, you want to run the ball, you don't have this incredible offense, you just want to run, you're probably going to have to kick a lot of field goals because you're not like a prolific offense. This dude is 12 of 19 this year. He has 4 misses under 50 yards. He missed a 41-yard field goal. They had a holding call that got wiped out, that wiped out a touchdown that would have given them an early 7-point lead. Then they had a defensive penalty that eliminated a fumble from the Chiefs. Zappi had a bad interception that shouldn't have been thrown. Their injuries to Cole Strange and Hunter Henry and McDermott are really hurting them. And now we're hearing all these rumors about Belichick to the Chargers. I have no idea what to do in here with this game. Like, this one's a pure stay away for me.
Hunter Henry receiving yards over. That's it for me in this game.
Yeah.
We saw it with Laporta. Broncos give up the most yards per game to opposing tight ends. Also, the Van Joseph defense historically has struggled to cover tight ends. I'll take the Hunter Henry receiving prop over. But in terms of side, I just feel 6.5 is way too much with the Broncos and hard to trust Zappy and this Patriots offense covering this number. So I'll just play the Hunter Henry prop.
Let's get to the Raiders at the Chiefs. I mean, normally with coming off a game like the Raiders had, they scored 42 points in the first half. 1 week after being shut out, they scored 63 points. Erik, I got a trivia question for you. The 42 points in the first half, that was the most points scored by a team coming off a shutout the previous week. That breaks the record. 34 points in the first half was the previous record. Do you know which team had that record, scoring 0 points in one game, and then next week they scored 34 in the first half? I thought this would be a hard one for you. Yeah. The 1927 Frankfurt Yellow Jackets.
I've never even heard of them. I'm going through my head who to go with.
I know that was on the tip of your tongue right there. And they did it.
I've never even heard of them.
They did it coming off of a tie against the Dayton Triangles. So just for some trivia there for you. But I mean, the Raiders scored 35 points off of turnovers. They forced 5 turnovers. I wanted to fade them this week just because you always want to fade a team when they have a game like that. But they're a 10-point dog in this game. It's sort of hard to fade them because I don't want to lay that number with the Chiefs. The Chiefs leaned on Edwards-Helaire a little bit last week. Pacheco was out. So it was a nice game for Edwards-Helaire. But some of the same issues, like Rice and Kelsey aren't – like Kelsey's not 100% healthy. Rice had a fumble that they got lucky that could have been a lot worse. They handled an overmatched opponent. Like Patriots only had 10 first downs in that game and only 206 total yards. But the Chiefs had 3 drops on offense. One of them turned into an interception. Tony had 2 more drop passes. He's not even returning punts anymore. I didn't feel fantastic about Kansas City watching that game. So I'm not laying this with them. I don't know if I can get there on the 10 with the Raiders because I think they may be a little flat off of everything going so perfect for them last week. Pure stay away for me.
Yeah, this is stay away. I really want to get to the Raiders, but I just can't get to it. I look to it. I just can't get to it. You know, we got divisional home favorites, 10 or more, 48% ATS. When you look at it, though, Mahomes struggles covering these big numbers on the road. He's somewhat close to the 50% ROI mark. When at home, we really don't know what's going on with Josh Jacobs. Do we trust a team like the Chiefs with their offense, as putrid as it's been, to cover this big number? And this number just seems inflated. It's important to know that it's Christmas Day. There's 3 standalone games. So what is the general bettor going to do? Chiefs, Eagles, 49ers, money line parlay. Chiefs, Eagles, 49ers, spread parlay. One of those 3 teams is going to be losing guaranteed. But I don't think it's the Chiefs. I'll pass this game.
We move to the Eagles at the Eagles hosting the Giants. And in this game, Eagles are a 12-point favorite, man. That's a big number. Not exactly sure what the Giants quarterback situation is going to look like here with a banged up DeVito. The Eagles, man, after that tough stretch, they're a little bit off. Like they were up 10-0 and then they got stagnant. They couldn't keep moving the ball. They were up 17-10. They had 3 more possessions to stretch the lead. And then a final possession, they were on the 45-yard line with 13 seconds left. All they needed was like 15 or 20 yards for a field goal attempt, but they took a big shot. It was like a bad decision from Hurts there. They now have 3 straight losses. Hurts had 82 yards rushing, but he had a couple bad interceptions, Erik. He was graded quarterback 26 on the week. And I don't like what I'm seeing with they made a defensive coordinator adjustment to where now Desai is up in the box, but Patricia's calling the plays. You know Patricia very well. I don't really think he's the guy that you want scheming things up. And then you see he gets beat on that final drive, and Drew Lock, attacks a coverage that wasn't the best coverage at the moment. So I don't know. It just seems like a big number for a team that doesn't have a whole lot of like negative buzz coming into this game.
Yeah, like as soon as I saw Patricia was calling the plays, I knew the Eagles were going to be in trouble. We really don't know what's going on with the excuse me, with DeVito and the offensive line of the Giants. But I saw this interesting TikTok video. Did the 49ers kind of leak the script how to stop Jalen Hurts? Because he hasn't looked good since that game, not really rushing him, kind of dropping back, kind of like how people played Lamar until Lamar made some adjustments. Also, when looking at A.J. Brown, he only has one game over 100 yards in the last 6 games. They need to start getting him the ball.
Maybe a squeaky wheel game for him. Some props.
Yeah, I don't know.
This DFS captain.
This is just one of those things I want to stay away, but it's important to remember last year the Eagles were in the same exact spot. 2 losses in a row. Got the Giants at home. Giants basically sat everyone because they were locked into that playoff game against Minnesota. Eagles limped to a 22-16 win. I would lean the under here, as crazy as it sounds, because I don't know if the Giants are going to be able to score points. DeVito and his agent completely messed up a good thing with what they had going, trying to double charge that pizzeria in Morristown, which is a whole different story. But
talk about flipping the whole narrative, right? Like they went from everybody rooting for them, thinking it was a cool story, to like, oh my God, that just came off like such a bad taste in everyone's mouth.
Yeah. So to me, this is just to stay away. I want nothing to do here.
Final game, Monday night, one of the 3 games on Monday, Christmas. Baltimore Ravens at the 49ers. Both teams are your number 1 seed. Your number 1 seed in the AFC right now versus your number 1 seed in the NFC. A possible Super Bowl preview here where you have the 49ers, man. When they win and when they win well, you look around and they do look like a team that's just going to be really tough to stop. They had 7.5 yards per play. It was kind of a weird box score, though. They got outgained in the game. Arizona was in it early. Arizona actually won the time of possession, and they ran the ball for 235 yards. Now, 49ers were without a couple of their key defensive tackles, Armstead and Hargrave. That's why the run stopping wasn't as good. They also allowed McBride to catch 10 of 11 passes for 102 yards. There was an injury scare for Purdy, but he came back fine, and now he is the MVP betting favorite. Was quarterback 4 on the week. Fantastic by all advanced metrics. 6 straight wins now for them, and they're averaging 34.5 in those 6 games, and they're going to have to lose twice to get out of this number 1 seed because they've got the tie break over the teams that are chasing them. For the Ravens, even though they're in that Jags game, and Jacksonville was a lot closer in that game than, the final score may have looked. But that did feel like a game that Lamar was just controlling with his legs. Like, he would just pick up a first down whenever he needed, whenever it was getting tight. They just held the ball and moved it. It was like watching a point guard. It was really smooth, and he's in a good zone right now. I mean, it to me, like, if I'm playing this game, it does just feel a little too much for San Francisco in a game where I think defensively, like, it could be a little tough for them with Lamar there to slow him down. So I'm not lining up to bet this one, but at 4 and above, I'm on the Ravens side.
Yeah, I like the Ravens here at 5.5. Still like it at 5. You're getting the 6th most profitable quarterback of all time, and you're getting 5 points. 92% ATS is a dog. That's what Lamar Jackson is. 89 is a road dog. Jackson, his legs can extend plays against the 49ers defensive line. Jackson is 18-1 straight up against the NFC East, just because no one in the NFC is as dynamic as Jackson is extending the plays. Ravens defense, I feel, matches up really well with the 49ers offense, what they're going to try to do. I feel this game is going to come down to whoever has the ball last. With that being said, I got to take the Ravens here plus the points. I don't know if the 49ers, because their defense struggles defending the middle of the field, if they're going to be able to generate enough stops. I know that sounds crazy. And the footwork of Lamar, he's going to be able to extend plays all day. I absolutely love the Ravens here. I got him at 5.5. Anything over 4.5, I like. And
Eric,
I also take a little bit of the over too. I think this game's going to shoot out.
Eric, buddy, appreciate another year in the books for us, I guess calendar year wise, because by the time we talk next week, it'll be kind of leading into the new year. But I know you've got some health stuff going on too. Fingers crossed. Love you. Hope everything goes well in the next few days. Keep me posted on how everything is going. And man, a few years ago, didn't even know each other, but I talked to you more than I talked to maybe most people in my life, and I trust you. I listen to things you say. You steer me into directions all the time. You become one of my best friends out there, man. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I'm sure I'll talk to you again in the next few days, but thanks again for all your help, and let's finish this season strong, buddy.
Oh, thank you, man. You know, you're one of my closest friends. Appreciate everything you've done for me and getting me in this whole podcast game. Joy spending time with you, talking with you, and looking forward to continuing next year, my man.
Okay, folks, we will be back next week talking NFL Week 17. Make sure to give Erik a follow at ETOF21 on Twitter, at ETOF21 Sports, all over the place. You all have a fantastic holiday leading into Christmas in the next few days. I'll have some other videos and stuff out there, but as far as football, this will be the final time we preview these games before Christmas Day. So have a beautiful holiday with your family out there, everyone. And though it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you.